What's your stance on this? And are you vaccinated right now?
I am vaccinated. So I got vaccinated very early on. I was living, because my parents are over a lot. My parents are 65. So, so when they got vaccinated, I also got vaccinated. The baseline that I've seen is that statistically speaking, if you're above the age of 30, you're more likely to get a serious side effect or die of COVID than you are to get a serious side effect or die of the vaccine. So it's a pretty straight up comparison for me. Even though I'm young and healthy and didn't think it was like super high priority to get the vaccine, I was like, okay, probably better than not to get the vaccine. And I've been saying that to people who are young and healthy. If you're above 65, you should 100% get the vaccine. Right? If you're above 65, your risk factor from the vaccine is way the hell lower than your risk factor from COVID, no question. If you're above the age of 20, then it is pretty clear that the vaccines are significantly safer than getting actual COVID in terms of side effects. If you are below the age of 20, you start to get into some dicey territory because the grand total number of people who have died under the age of 18, for example, in the United States is currently 385, according to the CDC. If you're under the age of 12, pretty much nobody is dying from this thing. I mean, like statistically speaking, it's a very, very like vanishingly low number. And it's very weird that they're giving the same sort of dosage to 12-year-olds that they're giving to a 400-pound 35-year-old, right? That doesn't make any sense. So there's some problems there. I'm very pro-vaccine. I've been very pro-vaccine since the beginning. I've urged people to get the vaccine if they have any risk factors at all. And a huge percentage of the American population is fat. A huge percentage of the American population is unhealthy. A huge percentage is older. So, I'm certainly not anti-vaccine. Natural immunity does mean that you really, scientifically speaking, don't need the vaccine per se. Natural immunity has been shown to be significantly more durable in a bunch of Israeli studies than vaccine immunity is at this point. But that's not an argument against the vaccines. It's an argument in favor of natural immunity. And so, here's my view. My view is every single person above the age of 12 in the United States has now heard the information. They've had the opportunity to get vaccinated or not get vaccinated. So I'm done. And frankly, I don't care whether you mask or vax or not, because I'm vaccinated, which means that my chances of dying from COVID are now about the same as my chances of dying from a lightning strike. So I'm really not particularly worried about it. I'm not worried for my parents. And so I'm befuddled why people are so angry and worried about whether their neighbor is vaccinated. Like, if you want to, I may think that you're wrong. I may think that you're putting your own life at risk if you're 70 years old and decide not to get vaccinated. I may think you're not looking at the best science. But frankly, I think people make decisions that I think are stupid and wrong every single day. And it's not my business as to what they do every single day, so long as it doesn't affect me. Once I've taken the vaccine, it doesn't affect me. So I really don't understand what the great hubbub is or what the limiting principle is. This is the thing where I'm really going nuts, right? This thing started as, we all have to stay home 15 days to slow the spread, mask up so that your neighbor doesn't get sick. Okay, in a world where there's no vaccine, that argument exists, right? I mean, realistically, what we should have done is we should have done what Sweden did, which is basically shield and protect the elderly. And then if you're younger and healthier, go back to work and live your life. That's exactly what Sweden did in the early days. But okay, fine. Then you get to wait until the vaccine's available. So we all waited until the vaccine was available. Then it was wait until the vaccine everyone has gotten the chance to have the vaccine. Now, not only have we all had the chance to get the vaccine, virtually everybody in the major states who's above the age of 65 has taken the vaccine and is fully vaccinated at this point. In Florida, it's like 92% or something. And so now the question is, what's the limiting principle? Are we just supposed to mask up forever? Vaccinated and unvaccinated? Are we supposed to never go back to work? Are we supposed to just pretend that for the rest of time, until every child is vaccinated, we're going to mask up 3-year-olds who, by the way, are not capable of wearing a mask? Are we going to pretend that cloth masks work the same as N95s, which is what Fauci is doing? Like, none of this is what drives me nuts. Like, I'm a very follow the science guy, and I'm not vaccine skeptical, right? And yet I'm still a person who's like, you can't mandate that people do things. You got to give people freedom. You got to let people live their lives. And yet this is considered a bizarre position, despite the fact that, by the way, foreign countries are not masking their kids. The UK isn't masking kids. The Netherlands isn't masking kids. Spain and Italy aren't masking kids. Denmark isn't masking kids. Like, Sweden isn't masking. Like, what are we doing here?
I'm not sure. And by the way, I 100% agree with everything that you said. And Dan and I are in the exact same camp as you are. You've had plenty of time at this point. You've either made your choice or you're not going to make your choice. Jamming it in people's faces here at this point is moot. Well, I mean, people are going to do what they want to do.
Just the talking points surrounding it, that it's a public health issue if I don't get vaccinated, that is demonstrably untrue. One, because if you're vaccinated, you don't have to worry about me.
You've had it.
Two, I have natural immunity.
Yeah.
Like, there's literally no chance of you getting life-threatening illness from me at this point, regardless of what I do for the rest of my life. So that's the basis they're using for the draconian.
Or by the way, even if somebody were to get a life-threatening illness from you, that's only because they themselves did not vaccinate or have COVID before, right? Which is their choice. right?
Yes,
Like it's possible that I, as a vaccinated person, could pass on COVID to somebody who's unvaccinated. But this is my whole point. You're an adult. If you don't want to be vaccinated, welcome to life. You know, we all undertake risks on a daily basis. You've decided to live with that risk. You're going to get immunity. Here's the rule. Right now with Delta, because it's so transmissible, you're going to get immunity one of two ways. You're either going to get COVID itself, or you're going to get the vax. There's no third choice where you just sit around and everybody else protects you the rest of your life. It is astonishing to me how the institutions have completely destroyed their own credibility here. So you had the institutions basically saying from the beginning, we are going to lie to you for your own good. Right? We're going to tell you the masks don't work, and then we're going to tell you the masks do work. We're going to tell you that kids need to mask in school, then we're going to tell you that kids shouldn't be in school, then we'll tell you kids should be in school. We're going to tell you that you definitely should mask after being vaccinated, then we'll tell you don't need to mask after you're vaccinated, then we'll tell you need to mask up again after you're vaccinated. We'll tell you that it is right, and we'll tell you that it is perfectly horrible for you to go out and protest against lockdowns because that's dangerous and terrible. But if you're out there twerking for George Floyd in mass numbers, then the virus won't affect you. It's an extremely woke virus. And in fact, racism is a public health problem. So you're doing a vital good by being out there protesting in the streets with literally somewhere between 16 and 25 million other people in the middle of a pandemic, right? That's all good. And so, you know, as this thing unfolded, if you offer people just the straight scientific information, then they get to make a choice. And then it's on them, right? This is why I keep saying when it comes to the vaccine, the chances of side effects, like the evidence of severe side effects from the vaccine, particularly like myocarditis, for example, it's like affecting 1 in every 6,700 people who take the Moderna vaccine, for example, and it's usually transitory. The chances of you getting myocarditis from COVID are higher than that in virtually every age group, right? If you actually lay out the stats and then somebody says, listen, I hear all that, but I'm still vaccine hesitant for whatever reason. I think that we need 2 years of data. I'm younger and I don't think it's going to affect me anyway. So since there is no longitudinal data and I'm 20 and I'm not overweight, I'll take my chances with it. Listen, that's your call. I may think it's the wrong call, but it's your call. But the public health officials never did that. The public health officials were like, we're going to lie to you every step of the way. So when they say things like that I'm saying, right? When they say the exact same stuff I'm saying, they have no credibility. And so people are like, yeah, but you told me a second ago that masks are more important than vaccines. So why shouldn't I just wear a mask for the rest of time, right? You just told me 1 second ago that my kids are supposed to mask up forever from the vaccinated. So, and then you're telling me it's really important that I vaccinate. So like, which is it? And the answer, of course, is that if you had just not lied to people this whole way and turned this into a political football, then you might have a little more credibility when you tell people to vax. I mean, I've been telling people to vax from day one. Like, I think it's actually really important based on your age and based on your pre-existing health conditions that you vaccinate. And I think that the vaccines are basically frankly, I think they're a scientific miracle. We developed them inside of a year. They probably saved hundreds of thousands of lives in the United States, particularly for people above the age of 60. And yet I also recognize that you as an individual human being in a free country have the right to breathe. You have the right to make your own decisions. And again, I've noticed that the Venn diagram of people who are busybodies and the Venn diagram of people who are completely vaccinated, it's a circle, right? Meaning that they're concentric circles. Not everybody who's vaccinated is a busybody, but everybody who's a busybody is vaccinated, which is so weird because again, if you're vaccinated, you have the least reason to be a busybody. If you're vaccinated, you're bulletproof, man. If you're vaccinated, your chances of dying from this virus are minuscule.
For sure, but I would say that these people are just as big victims of the media, the circus in the media as anybody, right? Like they're being told every day by people they trust that if everybody else doesn't get vaccinated, their lives are in danger. Their children's lives are in danger. They're being lied to constantly, right? And it's funny, one of the doctors from Johns Hopkins that was talking about this Tel Aviv study that began with 80,000, expanded to 800,000 people, right? That's scientifically significant data-wise, if you don't know. That is a massive study. I mean, we've never seen a study that large before for a vaccination ever in the history of humanity, I think. So even a doctor from Johns Hopkins who has no relationship to the media or any of this bullshit is like, yeah, it appears as though natural immunity constitutes quite a greater protection than just the vaccine. And Tucker Carlson's like, why is nobody talking about that? My segment starts and I'm like, hey, I'll tell you why nobody's talking about it, because it's fucking free. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like there's no money to be made here. So why would they be talking about it? And you see this guy, this professor at George Mason University, his faculty was going to force him to get vaccinated or whatever, like the NFL does. Like you have to do all these extra protocols that are fucked up. And he was like, no, I have natural immunity, and here's the proof that it's better. And they're like, what? And he took him to court and won.
Yeah.
So now his natural immunity is essentially a vaccine passport.
Well, you're right. And you know that you're exactly right about natural immunity. This was very, very early on in the pandemic. They tried to do antibody studies, right? Like Jay Bhattacharya over at Stanford, he tried to do an antibody study in Santa Clarita, California, and they found that a pretty significant percentage of the population already had antibodies. One of the things that has happened here also is that, Israel, which is very highly vaccinated, right, it turns out that there really is no herd immunity to this virus. Right. So the notion that you're going to get to herd immunity where the transmission levels are so low that there can't be a breakthrough case, that is really a pipe dream, and everybody sort of acknowledges that it's a pipe dream.
The viral shedding is way
point.
too high. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yep. So again, at this point, what that means is that I keep repeating it because it's true. Your choice. You can either get natural immunity via the actual virus, or you can get vaccine immunity, which may not be as durable, but may be a lot less risky. Right. Those are the choices, because natural immunity is more durable, but it also comes with the risk that you might get a lot more sick than if you get the vaccine. Right. And particularly if you're vulnerable, then the vaccine is going to be a better risk for you than natural immunity. Like I know people right now who are in the hospital because they didn't get the vaccine, thinking that, if it hit them, it wasn't going to be a big deal. Those people tend to be older, right? They tend to be older. They tend to be fatter. They tend to have pre-existing health conditions. All of that is the case. But I just keep coming back to this. What is the end point? What is the end goal? Nobody will set a damned end goal. Nobody will tell you when this is over. They have assumed in their head that the government is capable of completely quashing COVID